The night was calm, and the small town slept under the silver glow of the moon. A young man walked with his two sisters along the quiet country road, the air cool and the stars shining above them. They had spent the evening laughing, talking, and watching the sky, never knowing that this night would change everything. Without warning, the stars seemed to tremble. A strange humming filled the air, low at first, then louder and louder. The sisters stopped, looking around, their eyes wide with fear. The young man tried to stay calm, but his heart raced. Something was coming, something not of earth. The sky tore open with a sudden flash of light. A huge shape appeared above them, dark against the stars. It was no airplane, no satellite. It was a ship, massive and silent, glowing with strange blue symbols. The sisters screamed, holding each other tightly. The young man spread his arms, trying to protect them, though he knew he could do nothing against such a thing. Beams of light shot down from the ship. They were caught before they could run. The light wrapped around them. Lifting their bodies into the air, they struggled, but their arms and legs would not move. The young man shouted for his sisters, promising he would not let anything happen to them. But the light carried them higher and higher, pulling them into the unknown. Darkness swallowed them for a moment. Then the three stood on a cold metal floor. The walls around them glowed with lines of shifting color. They were no longer on Earth. The ship smelled of smoke and metal, and the air was heavy. The sisters clung to the young man, their eyes wide with terror. Then they saw them, aliens, tall, thin, with long limbs and glowing eyes. Their skin shimmered as if made of silver. Their voices were like echoes, speaking in a language the humans could not understand. But one stepped forward, and suddenly the words became clear in their minds, as if spoken inside their heads. "You are guilty," the alien leader said. "Humans have broken the laws of the stars." The young man shook his head, confused. "We have done nothing," he said. But the alien ignored him, its eyes fixed coldly on the sisters. "You must choose," the leader said. "One sister will die, the other will live if you refuse. All three will be executed." The word struck like a blade. The sisters gasped, holding on to each other. The young man froze, his mind racing. This could not be real. It had to be a nightmare. But the walls, the cold floor, the burning stares of the aliens, it was all too real. He looked at his sisters, the older one, strong but trembling. The younger one, her face pale with fear. Both looked at him, tears shining in their eyes. He was their protector, their brother. And now the aliens wanted him to decide which one would die. "No," he whispered, but the alien leader's voice cut through him like thunder. "Choose, or all perish." The young man's heart pounded in his chest. He thought of their childhood, of all the times he had promised to keep them safe. Now that promise was being tested in a way he could never have imagined. He clenched his fists, fighting the despair. He knew one thing: he would not let the aliens win, but how could he fight them? How could one human outsmart beings from the stars? The aliens stood tall, waiting, their glowing eyes filled with cruel patience. The sisters sobbed, begging him not to choose. The silence grew heavy, every second pushing him closer to the impossible. He raised his head, staring at the alien leader. Inside his fear, a spark of defiance burned. Humans were not made to bow. He would not surrender so easily. But the aliens gave no mercy. "Decide now," the leader ordered. "Your time is ending." The young man swallowed hard. He pulled his sisters close, whispering to them that he loved them. He swore he would not let them die, even if it meant facing the whole universe. The ship grew colder. The walls seemed to close in. The aliens watched with silent hunger. The trap was set, the game had begun, and in that terrible moment, the young man knew. This was not just about his sisters. This was about proving what it meant to be human. The chamber fell silent after the alien leader's command. Only the faint hum of the ship filled the air, like a heartbeat of something ancient and merciless. The young man stood frozen, his two sisters pressed against him, their hands trembling in his grip. He could feel their fear, their hearts racing, and he knew the aliens could feel it too. The leader's glowing eyes narrowed. "You waste time," it said, voice echoing inside his mind. "Choose one, save one, or all shall perish." The words hit like iron chains. The older sister shook her head, her face pale but brave. "Don't listen to them," she whispered to her brother. The younger one clung to him, crying, her small voice breaking. "Please, I don't want to die." The young man's chest burned. How could he choose? How could anyone decide who deserves to live and who must be taken away forever? The cruelty of it was worse than death. It was not justice, it was a game. A twisted test made by creatures who did not understand love. He looked at the aliens, tall and silver-skinned, standing like statues of cold judgment. Behind the leader, others watched with silent hunger. Some recorded the scene with glowing devices, as if his family's suffering was entertainment. Rage stirred inside him. Sharp and dangerous, he clenched his fists, fighting the urge to scream. "Why us?" he demanded, his voice shaking but loud. "What law says I must murder my own family?" The leader tilted its head, almost amused. "Humanity breaks balance. Your species multiplies, consumes, destroys. This is your punishment." The young man's jaw tightened. Punishment? For being alive? For being human? He wanted to strike them, but the weight of the choice pressed harder. Both sisters looked at him with pleading eyes. One choice would save, one would kill, but not choosing at all would doom them all. He felt trapped in a cage of iron. The walls of the chamber seemed to grow taller. The air colder every second was stolen from him. He tried to breathe, tried to think, but his thoughts spun like a storm. The older sister touched his hand. "Brother," she whispered, "if you must. Then choose me. She is younger. She deserves to live." The younger one cried harder, shaking her head. "No. Don't say that. We stay together, always together." The young man's throat closed. Tears burned in his eyes. This was tearing them apart. And the aliens wanted it. They wanted him broken, destroyed from the inside. He remembered childhood nights when they sat by the fire, when he promised his sisters he would protect them, when he told them no matter what he would never let harm touch them. And now here in the heart of a cold alien ship, that promise felt like a blade twisting inside him. He turned his eyes back to the leader. "You think this proves your law?" he asked. "You think making me kill one of my sisters makes you strong?" "It only proves your fear." The aliens shifted, their glowing eyes flickering. They did not expect such defiance. But the leader only stepped closer, its long shadow stretching across the floor. "Choose, or I end all three now," it said, raising its hand, energy crackling between its fingers. The young man's heart pounded. He could not fight them, not yet. He needed time, a plan, a way out. He looked at his sisters, and a thought sparked inside him. Maybe he could turn their cruel law against them. Maybe there was a way to bend their words, to confuse them, to stall. He swallowed hard, his voice steadying. "I will choose," he said. His sisters gasped, pulling back in horror. "No!" they both cried, but his eyes told them to trust him. The aliens leaned forward, eager. Their glowing devices brightened, recording every second. The leader smiled, a thin alien smile. "Speak, human, and let the stars hear your decision." The young man's lips parted, but instead of naming one sister, he spoke carefully, slowly. "My choice is made," he said. "I choose the one who means the most to me, the one who carries my heart, the one who gives me reason to live." His sisters froze, staring at him. The aliens looked at each other, confusion flickering across their faces. He had not spoken a name, not pointed to either sister. He had given them words, but not an answer. The leader's eyes narrowed. "You twist our command," it hissed. "Name her, or I'll die." The young man stood taller, fire burning in his eyes. "You said I must choose, and I have chosen. But you never asked for a name." The chamber stirred, whispers of alien voices filling the air. Some of the silver beings looked uneasy. The law was strict, yes, but it had rules. And humans were known for bending rules until they cracked. The leader stepped closer, its cold aura pressing like a storm. "Do not play games with us, human. You think clever words will save you?" The young man met its glowing gaze and whispered, "No, but they will buy me time." The ship's chamber shook with silence after his words. The young man had not chosen a name, only spoken in riddles, and now the aliens stood restless. Their glowing eyes flickered as if they were unsure how to answer. For the first time, the law of the stars did not feel like unbreakable iron. It felt fragile, like glass touched by fire. The alien leader's voice cut through the silence. "You mock us, human. Our law is clear. Your tricks will not save you." But the young man did not lower his eyes. He had seen something, a tiny reaction among them. Not all the aliens were united. Some had shifted. Some had whispered in their strange tongue. And one soldier, yes, one soldier had lowered his weapon, even if only for a second. He realized then that their law was not made of stone. It was made of fear, tradition, and control. And anything built on fear could be broken. He spoke again, his voice steady though his body trembled. "You call this law. This is not justice, this is cruelty dressed as order. If you are so powerful, why do you need me to choose? The sisters looked at him, confused and terrified. They didn't understand his plan, but they could see his courage growing. And courage, even in the darkest place, was like a flame. It made them believe. Even when hope felt lost, the leader hissed, stepping closer. You are human, your kind is reckless. You destroy planets, you poison your own soil. We give you this mercy and you spit on it. The young man shook his head. No, you don't give mercy. You steal it, you enjoy watching us suffer. You enjoy this game? Murmurs rose among the aliens. Some tilted their heads as if questioning their own leader's words. Their silver skin flickered with shifting colors, confusion, disagreement, unease. The young man saw it, and his mind sharpened. He knew he had found the first crack in their law. He decided to press harder. He raised his voice louder, so every alien in the chamber could hear. You say humans destroy, but what of you? You build laws that force a brother to kill his own blood, you call that order? You call that justice? No, this is weakness because you fear what makes us strong. The leader's eyes glowed brighter. Furious, but behind it some of the soldiers lowered their heads. They were not used to humans speaking like this. Most captives begged, cried, obeyed. But this one fought with words, with spirit. And that spirit was something the aliens did not understand. The younger sister whispered, Brother, they will kill you if you make them angry. He squeezed her hand gently. Then I die as a human, not as their pawn. The leader slammed its staff on the ground. Sound like thunder. Enough! It roared. You will choose now or we end this. The chamber lights grew brighter, beams of energy humming. The sisters clung to their brother, tears in their eyes, but the young man did not flinch. He stared at the leader and asked one question, then tell me, who chooses for you? The leader froze, its mouth opening, but no answer came. The crowd of aliens stirred again, whispers growing louder. It was a dangerous question, a question that cut into the heart of their law. If their law forced humans to choose death, who among them had chosen first? Who had decided this cruel system? And if no one had chosen, then was the law ever true? The leader growled, its voice trembling with rage. You dare question the foundation of the stars? The young man's eyes burned with fire. I am human, we question everything, that is why we survive. That is why you fear us. The chamber shook again, not from the ship, but from the voices of the aliens. Some were no longer silent. Some openly argued in their strange language. The leader barked orders, but doubt had spread like fire through dry grass. The young man could see it, feel it, the law was cracking. Not breaking yet, but cracking, and cracks once opened only grew wider. The leader's fury became a storm. Silence them, it ordered, pointing at the young man. Soldiers stepped forward. Weapons humming with deadly light, the sister screamed, holding on to him. But in that instant, the soldier he had noticed before, the one who lowered his weapon, hesitated again. The young man's eyes met the soldier's. Something passed between them, silent but strong. The soldier's hand trembled, and for the first time, the young man saw not an enemy, but a question in alien eyes. The leader noticed and snarled, Obey! It shouted, but the soldier did not move. The young man seized the moment. He shouted with all his strength, You see it too, don't you? This is wrong. Your law is broken, and you know it. The soldier's weapon dimmed. Lowering even further, the sisters gasped. Hope flickering in their eyes, the leader roared with fury, its voice shaking the chamber. You will not poison my soldiers with human lies. But it was too late. The first seed of doubt had been planted. And even in the cold heart of an alien warship, seeds had a way of growing. The chamber trembled with tension. The alien leader's glowing staff hovered in the air, ready to strike. But the silver-skinned soldier stepped forward. Blocking its path, the entire room froze, shocked at the defiance. The leader's voice thundered through the air. You dare stand against the law? The soldier's voice was calm, almost quiet, yet strong enough to echo. I stand against cruelty, not the law. The other aliens shifted uneasily, their glowing eyes flickering in confusion. For them, obedience was survival. Doubt was forbidden. Yet one of their own had raised his head against the leader. It was unthinkable. The young man felt his heart pound. For the first time since their capture, he saw a sliver of hope. This soldier, this stranger from the stars, was proof that even among them, not all believed in the cruelty of the system. The leader hissed, lowering the staff slowly. Very well. If the human wishes to waste time with riddles, let him soon. His words will crumble. And so will his sisters. The young man knew what that meant. The leader was not retreating, only waiting. He was giving him rope, hoping he would hang himself with it. But rope in the right hands could also be a lifeline. He pulled his sisters close, whispering to them, "Stay strong. I have a plan." They looked at him with wet eyes, frightened but trusting. They knew he would not give up, not now, not ever. When the aliens stepped back, the young man leaned slightly toward the rebel soldier. Their eyes met, one human, one alien, both trapped in the same cage of law and fear. The soldier tilted his head, barely noticeable, a silent signal. It was not trust yet, but it was something, a thread of understanding. The young man decided to act. He raised his voice again, facing the crowd. "You want me to choose?" "Fine, I will," the sisters gasped, their hands tightening on his arm. But his eyes told them to stay calm. This was not surrender, it was strategy. The aliens leaned forward, recording devices glowing brighter. The leader smiled cruelly. "Yes, human, speak your choice. End this game." The young man stepped forward, his voice steady. "My choice is the one who deserves to live most. The one who carries my family's strength. The one who has the courage to face death and not fear it." The aliens tilted their heads. Confused again, the sisters stared at him, stunned. He had spoken more riddles, more words without a name. But his tone was so final, so sharp that even the alien leader paused. The leader growled, "You play with words. Do you think this will save you?" The young man stood taller. "No, but it will show you something you've never understood. Humans do not break under your laws, we bend them, twist them, and make them ours." The crowd murmured louder now. Some soldiers looked at each other uneasily. Their perfect law was being mocked, not with weapons but with words. And words were cutting deeper than any blade. The rebel soldier took a slow step closer. The leader noticed but said nothing. The young man caught the movement. His heart beat faster. This was it. This was the opening he needed. He whispered to his sisters again, "Trust me, no matter what I say. I will never let you die." Then he raised his hand and pointed toward his older sister. Gasps filled the chamber. Even his sisters cried out, "No!" They screamed together. The older one shook her head wildly. "Brother, don't." The leader's eyes blazed. "At last you choose," it hissed. The crowd leaned in, waiting to witness the human break. But the young man's lips curved into the smallest, sharpest smile. "I choose her," he said, his voice loud. "Because she would never let her little sister die. And that is the truth of humanity. You cannot divide us. Even in death we are together." The chamber fell into chaos. The aliens murmured, confused and unsettled. The sisters clung to each other, tears falling. They understood now. He had spoken not a sacrifice, but a defiance. He had turned the choice into unity. He had given them no victim, only a bond. The leader slammed its staff down, furious. "This is not choice. This is rebellion." But his words only revealed the truth. The human had cracked the law again. Deeper than before, the rebel soldier stepped forward, his weapon still lowered, his glowing eyes fixed on the young man. "You speak of unity," the soldier said slowly. "Even when threatened with death, you refuse to betray your blood." The soldier's voice shook, as if the idea was foreign. The young man met his gaze. "That is what makes us human. It is why we survive when others fall. We don't abandon. We fight together," the leader shouted. "Enough! Kill them all if he refuses to obey." But the chamber did not move. The soldiers hesitated, their glowing weapons trembling. The law was being questioned, and once questioned, it could never be perfect again. The young man saw his chance. He looked at the rebel soldier. "If you believe me, help me," he whispered. The soldier's eyes burned with conflict, but in the end he gave a small, sharp nod. The first spark of alliance had been lit. The chamber was no longer silent. Whispers spread among the aliens like wind through broken glass. The law that once felt unshakable now trembled under the weight of one human's words. And at the center stood the young man, his sisters by his side, and the rebel soldier standing between them and the furious leader. The leader's staff glowed with dangerous light. "You betray your people," it hissed at the soldier. "You betray the stars themselves." But the soldier stood tall, his silver skin flickering with strange colors. "I follow truth," he answered. "And truth is not found in cruelty." The young man's heart pounded. He had no weapon, no power, but he had something stronger. The one thing aliens could not understand. The one thing they feared, the human spirit. He turned to the watching crowd of aliens, his voice echoing across the chamber. You think humans are weak because we cry, because we love, because we refuse to betray our families. But that is our strength, not our weakness. His younger sister clung to his arm, whispering, Brother, they don't care. They'll kill us, but he placed his hand on her shoulder. Steady, maybe. But if we die together. That is something they will never break. The older sister wiped her tears and raised her chin. She understood now. This was no longer about survival alone. It was about showing these creatures what it meant to be human. The alien leader snarled, its glowing eyes burning with rage. You call this strength? Your emotions are chains. They bind you, make you weak. We are beyond such flaws. The young man took a step forward, his voice sharper, louder. No, it is you who are weak. Because you cannot feel what we feel. You cannot fight for something greater than yourself. You cannot love. And that is why you will never truly win. The crowd stirred. Soldiers shifting, their glowing eyes flickering with unease. Some had never heard such words before. To them, love was not law, unity was not purpose. But the fire in the human's eyes, the trembling voices of his sisters, the bravery in their fear, it was something alien to them, something powerful. The rebel soldier lowered his weapon completely now. His voice was quiet, but it reached every corner of the chamber.
He is right, he said. Our law has no mercy, no heart.
We follow it because we are told it is truth, but what if truth is more than law? The leader's staff struck the ground, the noise thunderous. Silence. It roared, This human poisons you with lies, do not listen. But the more it shouted, the more uncertain its people became. Doubt had already entered their minds, and doubt was a fire that spread quickly. The young man saw it. He pressed harder. His words like arrows. You claim to rule the stars, but you fear a single human voice. You fear us because we are not like you. We do not break, we do not surrender, we love. And love makes us stronger than your law ever will. The sisters clung to him, their tears now mixed with courage. The older one raised her head. If you kill him, you kill me too, she said loudly. The younger one nodded through her sobs. If you kill her, you kill me, we are one. Always together. Their voices rang like bells. Sharp and clear, the aliens stared in silence. To them, family was not sacred, bonds were not sacred. But here stood three fragile humans daring to defy death itself with nothing but loyalty. The leader shook with fury. This ends now. It screamed, it raised its staff, energy burning bright, ready to strike. But the rebel soldier moved again, standing firm in its path. If you strike them, you strike me too, the soldier said. The chamber gasped, soldiers whispering louder. Rebellion was no longer a seed, it was beginning to grow. The young man looked at the soldier. Why? He asked softly. The soldier's glowing eyes flickered. Because you showed me something I never knew existed. Strength not from fear, but from love. The leader roared. Traitor. It raised its weapon higher, but this time, more than one soldier hesitated. Some lowered their weapons, others looked away. The perfect law was cracking wider, piece by piece. The young man stepped forward again, fire in his eyes. You call yourself masters of the stars, but today you see the truth. Humanity is not weak, humanity is not broken. We are strong because we fight for each other. Even if you kill us here, others will rise. You cannot kill the human spirit, his words struck like thunder. The chamber was no longer filled with silence, it was filled with uncertainty. Whispers, shifting colors, divided hearts. The leader's staff blazed, desperate to end it, but in that moment, the young man knew something had changed forever. The law had been challenged. The alien people had seen another way. And nothing could erase what they had witnessed. The chamber doors slammed open. More alien soldiers marched in, their weapons glowing with deadly light. The leader lifted his staff, his voice a storm of fury. Seize them all. End this rebellion before it spreads. But something strange happened. Half of the new soldiers did not raise their weapons. They froze, their glowing eyes flickering with hesitation. Some glanced at the young man, some at the rebel soldier who stood in defiance. It was as if the fire of doubt had already reached them before they entered the room. The young man felt his sisters tremble against him. The older one whispered, "We cannot fight them. There are too many," but he shook his head, his eyes sharp. Maybe not with weapons, but words. Words are stronger than their law. He stepped forward, his voice echoing. "You see it, don't you? Your law is not truth, it is control, it is chains disguised as order. And today those chains begin to break." The alien leader roared. Lies. Do not listen to him. He is human, deceptive, dangerous, weak. But the rebel soldier raised his voice. No, he is not weak. He is stronger than any of us because he fights with his heart. Because he chooses unity when your law demands betrayal. The chamber shook with murmurs. The soldiers looked at each other, uncertain. Their perfect order was crumbling. The leader, desperate, pointed at the young man. Then prove your strength, human. You claim your spirit is stronger? Then stand against the law itself. I declare trial by the Star Code. If you can defeat me in judgment, your sisters will live, but if you fail, you all die here. The crowd gasped, their glowing eyes widening. The Star Code was something sacred, a challenge no human had ever survived. It was meant to prove that no one could stand against the law, and now the human was being forced into it. The young man's heart pounded. He had no weapons, no armor, nothing but his voice and his will, but he knew this was the only way. He met the leader's burning eyes and said, "Then I accept." His sisters cried out, "No, you can't." But he touched their hands, whispering, "Trust me. This is our chance." The chamber floor shifted, glowing symbols rising from the ground. The air filled with strange energy. Heavy and sharp, the Star Code had begun. The leader's voice boomed, "By law, the challenger must prove truth. Speak your defense, human. Prove your spirit against the judgment of the stars." The young man stood tall, his chest rising and falling. He took a breath, then spoke. "You call this law eternal. But what is a law without mercy? What is justice without compassion? If your law demands that a brother kill his own blood, then it is not justice, it is murder." The chamber shook with whispers. Some aliens turned to one another. Uncertain, the leader slammed his staff. Empty words. Humans always destroy with lies, show proof of your strength or perish. The young man's voice grew louder, his words cutting like blades. "My proof is here in my sisters, who stand with me even in death, in this soldier, who dares question your cruelty, and in your own people, who now doubt you because they see truth. You cannot kill this, you cannot kill love, you cannot kill unity. You cannot kill the human spirit." The chamber walls glowed brighter, as if the ship itself responded to the force of his words. The aliens shifted restlessly, their eyes flickering between colors of fear and uncertainty. For the first time in their history, the Star Code trial was not breaking the challenger. It was breaking the law itself. The leader's fury grew desperate. "Enough! Words cannot save you." He raised his staff, energy blazing, ready to strike. But before he could, another soldier shouted, "He is right. This is no law, it is cruelty." Another voice joined, then another. One by one, soldiers lowered their weapons, their glowing eyes burning with doubt and defiance. The chamber filled with the sound of rebellion. The young man's sisters clung to him, their tears now shining with hope. "Brother," the younger whispered, "you're changing them." He nodded, though his heart still raced. "We are all changing them," the leader screamed, his voice echoing like thunder. "You dare betray centuries of order? You dare let a human corrupt you?" He charged forward, staff blazing with deadly power, but the rebel soldier leapt between him and the humans. Blocking the strike, the clash shook the chamber, sparks of alien energy bursting through the air. The young man pulled his sisters back, shielding them. The rebel soldier struggled against the leader's fury, but others began to move. More soldiers stepped forward, standing at the human's side, their weapons no longer aimed at him, but at their own leader. The law was breaking. The chamber was no longer one voice, it was many. Divided, and in that division the young man saw hope. He raised his voice one final time. "Today you see the truth, your law was built on fear. But fear cannot last forever. It shatters when faced with courage. And humanity will always have courage," the leader roared, struggling against the soldier who held him back. But the tide had already turned. The people were no longer his, the law was no longer his. The chamber was fire and storm. The alien leader fought like a beast cornered, its staff glowing with savage light. The rebel soldier held his ground, his silver skin flickering as sparks of energy clashed against him. Around them, the once united army of the stars had split in two. Some raised their weapons for the leader, but many lowered theirs, torn by doubt and fear. The young man stood with his sisters behind him, his voice echoing above the chaos. "Look at him. Look at your leader. He fears one human's words more than 1,000 armies. That is not strength, that is weakness," the aliens faltered. Their glowing eyes shifting, some hesitated. Some began to step away from the leader. The chamber that had been built for judgment now echoed with rebellion. The leader roared, striking the rebel soldier back with a blast of energy. You think you can defy me? I am the law. Without me, there is only chaos. The young man stepped forward, his heart pounding but his spirit burning. No, without you, there can be freedom. Without you, there can be justice. Without you, there can be life. Your law does not protect, it only kills. But humanity fights for something greater than law. We fight for each other. His words cut deeper than any blade. The rebel soldier rose again, bruised but unbroken. He turned his weapon on his own leader. You are not the law, he said. You are its prison. The chamber erupted. Half the soldiers shouting in anger, the other half in defiance. The leader swung his staff toward the human, energy blazing, but before it could strike, 3 alien soldiers stepped between them. Their weapons hummed, not pointed at the human, but at their leader. The young man's sisters gasped, holding on to each other. The older one whispered, Brother, they're protecting us. The younger one's voice shook with awe. They're choosing us over him. The leader's voice turned to desperation. Traitors! All of you! He poisons your minds with lies. But even as he shouted, the truth was clear. His control was gone, his law had shattered. The young man raised his voice one final time. You asked me to choose which of my sisters should die, but I chose neither. Because humanity does not divide itself for the pleasure of tyrants. We live together or we die together, and today you have seen that truth. That is why your law falls. The chamber went silent for a moment, then, one by one, weapons lowered. Aliens who had once served the law now turned their backs on the leader. The glow in their eyes dimmed, replaced by something new. Doubt, courage, freedom. The rebel soldier lifted his weapon high. The law is broken, he declared. From this day we are no longer slaves to cruelty. We are free to choose truth, the leader screamed in fury. No, you cannot. Without the law you are nothing. But his voice was drowned out by the roar of his own people. A roar of rebellion. The young man held his sisters close. Tears filled his eyes, not of fear, but of triumph. He had come with nothing but love and courage, and with it, he had torn apart a law that ruled the stars. The leader, defeated and broken, fell to his knees, his staff dimmed, its light fading, his eyes still burned with hate. But no one followed him now, he was alone. The rebel soldier stepped forward, looking at the human. You changed them, he said softly. You changed us all. The young man shook his head. No, it was never just me, it was us, it was humanity. His sisters clung to him, their tears falling freely. The younger whispered, We're alive. We're alive because you refused to let us go. The older sister nodded, her voice trembling with pride. You saved us. And you saved them too. The chamber doors opened. The soldiers no longer blocked the way. The path was clear. The young man and his sisters stepped forward, the rebel soldier walking at their side. They were no longer prisoners, they were witnesses. And more than that, they were proof. Proof that humanity could not be broken. Proof that even among the stars, the human spirit could shake empires as they stepped into the light of freedom. The young man looked back one last time at the leader. His voice was steady, filled with fire. You wanted me to choose who should die instead? I showed you why humanity deserves to live. The sisters held his hands tightly. The rebel soldier bowed his head in respect. And in that moment, the stars themselves seemed to listen, not to the law of cruelty, but to the voice of humanity.